and silly and kind of inadvertent and can actually hurt their reputation. And taking something that could be a very good and strong thing for you and making it absolutely the opposite is what Jack is going to go ahead and highlight and give you some tips and tricks to go ahead and avoid some of that stuff. So let's get into today. We have Janis Benstock. Janis is a member of our board of directors. She's also part of the education team at Temple's Real Estate School. She's a big time contributor to us and the association over the course of the pandemic. She has done a handful of these workshops for us. It's really time well spent. And you can pick up some little nuggets to help you out to make your business more successful and stronger. So with that, I give the floor to Janis Benstock. Hey, good morning, Janis.
Good morning. Hi, everybody. I am thrilled to share this training with you. It's one of my absolute favorite trainings. And you're all here by choice, not by force, like my real estate pre-licensure students. But I beg of you, if you don't mind, to turn your camera on, because Matt and I were talking about this just a few minutes ago. It's horrifyingly lonely to teach in the world of Zoom, and I love to see faces. Hi, and I don't care what you look like, and I don't care what you wear, and I don't care if you brush your teeth, because maybe I did, maybe I didn't. So it's just nice to see faces, and I really appreciate it. So good morning. I'm going to do a slideshow, and I'm going to talk about how to convert your contacts into clients. And even though it's a slideshow and it looks really fancy and formal, it's not. So if you have a question or something in the middle, feel free to jump in. We're an intimate group here, and this is for you. So whatever you need to get out of it, questions, comments, concerns, just holla. And if I don't see you because I'm doing the presentation, like unmute yourself and just yell. Okay, so I'm going to start the slide presentation, but I just want to give you a little bit of background so that you understand why I'm doing what I'm doing and what the learning objective is. I've been doing this for a long time. And in the beginning, when I started selling real estate, no one really told me how to do it. And we all know that the hardest part of this career is getting clients. I call it the hunt. And if we don't have clients, we don't have business and we don't eat. And there are lots of ways to get clients. There's cold calling, door knocking, buying leads from Zillow and all that stuff. None of them ever felt right for me, so I didn't do them. And it took me a long time to figure out how to get leads. And I started doing it, and it felt organic to me. So that's what I call it, is getting them organically. This isn't the right approach for everyone. And you might want to still cold call and door knock and buy leads, and that's fine. You do what works for you. But if that's not working for you, or you want to supplement your business a little bit, or just pick up and use these skills, because you can use them in stuff besides real estate, which is fun. You can use them like in household negotiations with your kids, with your spouse, significant other. It works. So that's what this is all about. And so even though I tell you I don't like to cold call, I don't like to door knock, if that works for you, you do what works for you. This can just supplement your income. So with that, I'm going to start the slideshow, and here we go. Let's do tech stuff. 1 second. This is always the part that, there we go. Okay, so that's me looking pretty with my makeup done, and our presentation today, convert your contacts into clients. And this is all basically what I just talked to you about, is if you're wondering where your next buyer is coming from, especially now with limited open houses, although they're coming back, but it's still a challenge sometimes to get clients, especially now when it's such a seller's market and there's no inventory. Or other times you've seen agents listing and you're wondering why you're not, because listings, we know, are really a lot harder to get than buyers. Or if you're just at that point where you're wondering simply, how long can I afford to stay in business? Because we have dues to pay, we have licenses to pay, software to pay for, and it's expensive. So you need business coming in. So what we're going to learn today, can you guys see on my screen, our faces are covering the slide. Is that the same for you, or can you see?
You can see just fine.
You can see, okay. So what we're going to learn today is it's about calling people. It's about talking to people. And if you're choking already and you're like, I can't call people, this is an easy, fun way to call people, I promise you. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is how to stop the paralysis of like, I can't do this, and actually pick 5 people from your own life to call every day. Then we're going to talk about what to say to them so you'll look forward to picking up the phone, because this is not a script. This is not a cold call. This is not calling and asking for business. This is a human interaction, a conversation. But if you just pick up the phone and talk to people, hey, how you doing? How is this going to be leading you to business? So the third part that we're going to learn is the special sauce. It's the secret, a simple secret to converting that contact into a client, to gently, without being salesy or pushy, turn that conversation from, hey, how are you, into, oh my God, it's time for you to buy a house from me, right? So like I told you before, my business used to look like this, seriously, a roller coaster. And I was this chick over here. I was literally living hand to mouth, deal to deal, up and down the feast or famine cycle. So if this is you, you are not alone, because this is what happens in an entrepreneur's life, in a self-employed life, but it doesn't have to be this way. And the most important thing that I can implore to you is, whether you choose to do this or cold calling or door knocking or any of the things, whatever you choose to do, do it on the regular. You got to do it every day. It has to be set on your schedule from the night before, so that you wake up the next day and do it. It has to be in writing, and you have to do it every single day, because every time you skip a day, it means 30, 60 days down the pike, you're going to go hungry. Because what happens in that feast or famine cycle is that when we're up here and our pipeline is full of all these deals by choice, or I mean by chance, or by the fact that we worked our butts off, we're so busy servicing these deals and dealing with all the paperwork and the emails and the texts, that we just say, oh, we'll generate leads, or we'll plant seeds. I like to call it, we'll plant seeds later. And then what happens is you hit this famine cycle, because your pipeline empties out and you have this giant payday. You know, when you make $100,000 and you're like, whoa, I'm exaggerating, but hopefully you do. You make all this money and you're buying a car and going on vacation. And then while you're busy doing that, nothing in the pipeline. And then it's like anxiety. And this is what I want to avoid for you. So I had no plan. I had no consistent way to get leads. And I called myself a real estate agent, but I didn't act like one. So I said I was in real estate, but I just took deals as they came, and it felt like crap about myself. And the other thing was, I was envious of other agents, and all these things, me seeing other agents killing it. And this was before social media. Now it's got to even be worse. You're seeing other agents on social media and Facebook, whatever. They're talking and they're doing business. And then it made me feel, when I saw these other agents doing business, I looked at their success as another reminder of my failure. And then I beat myself up with it. So all of these things, thinking that I was the only one and not knowing how to do this, made me spiral downward to the point where I was paralyzed and I almost left the industry. It was pretty bad. So that was me, and I'm still like that sometimes, but without the makeup running down my face. And then I decided to plant seeds every day. And it's a long story about a friend telling me how to do it, but this is what I'm telling you is, I promise you, if you pick at least one thing and do it every single day, it's going to change your business and change your life, and blah, blah, blah. This is all the good stuff. I'm right where I want to be, and you can be too. All right, let's get into the good stuff. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is how to choose 5 people. So remember, the plan here is that every single day you're going to touch 5 people. And when I say touch, I don't mean in the creepy way, especially now in the time of COVID. I mean, call them. Calling is the best way to do it. You can also text or email, but you should always aim for at least 1 phone call a day, because voice to voice is the best way to communicate. So it's all going to start with your sphere of influence. And your sphere of influence, if you don't have it written down, is a fancy term for all the people you know. That's it. It's a notebook. You grab a notebook and you just simply start brainstorming and jot down the names of all the people you know. And you might have this in your CRM or in your phone. I strongly urge you to write it down on paper as well, because there's something about writing that does it to your brain, that implants it in your brain, as well as visually seeing it, because I want you to look at this at least once a day so that these names can start to jump out at you. So you're going to start brainstorming and you're going to write down all these names. And here's the thing about brainstorming. Brainstorming is meant to be a group activity where someone says a question or a problem, and then the group starts shouting out all these different solutions and answers. And the idea is that no matter how crazy or outlandish the solution or the idea is, you write it down, because it now will encourage somebody or start making somebody else think of another idea. And then at the end, you look over the whole list and then you start analyzing which are good choices and which aren't. Well, this is a brainstorming activity that has been adapted to be a solo activity because you're doing your SOI by yourself. But I model it after brainstorming because what I want you to do is you start jotting names down, and you're not going to be analyzing them in this phase. Meaning, if you come up with a name and then you stop and you choke and you're like, oh, I can't call them, it's my gynecologist, that would be weird. Write their name down anyway, because it doesn't mean that you have to call them. It means that now your brain is going to start clicking, and you're going to maybe think of other names to put on your SOI that your gynecologist made you think of that you will be calling at some point. So dump all the names down and keep them. And so I want you to ask yourself, do you have your SOI written down? And if so, do you know how many people are on it? And you should have it written down, and you should know how many people are on it, because not only are you going to use that SOI to build your business and plant your seeds, but you should also have a goal to increase the people, the number of names of people on your SOI on the regular. You're going to aim to add 5 names a week. Now, these are bare minimum numbers. You can always adapt that and increase that to fit your life. Don't ever decrease it, because we're looking to get bigger here. So now, once you have this SOI written down, you have to look at it often. And the way I suggest for you to do is at the end of every day, clear off your desk, your kitchen table, your car, whatever you use as your workspace, and get out a clean sheet of paper, whether it's your calendar or a blank piece of paper, or even on your phone, whatever you use for your schedule, and write down what you're going to do the next day. And one of the things that you need to do is write down the 5 people that you're going to call tomorrow. So how do you choose those 5 people? Well, the way you choose it is by looking at this frequently, and it frequently in the beginning a lot, and then over time it's just pretty much once a day. If you look at it, or twice a day, if you look at it in the morning to take a quick look at it, what's going to happen is that there are names that are going to feel like they're jumping out from the page right at you. Because what happens is when you look at this list frequently and then you go out and do your day, your brain is going to make a connection. This name that you saw on the paper this morning is now in your subconscious, and then something happens through your day that makes a connection and makes you think of that person. For example, you read your list and nothing jumps out at you, and then you walk past the bar, the one where you got so drunk and laughed so hard that margaritas came out your nose, and you were with Andy. Well, you saw Andy's name on the page this morning, walked by the bar this afternoon, and your subconscious magically made that connection. And now the next time you look at the list, Andy's name is going to look like it's jumping out at you. And that's when you grab your highlighter and you highlight it, and he goes on your list for tomorrow. It's that simple, and it's really fun. It's almost like magic. Okay, so now you have your 5 people, because you've done this, you've written the list down, you've looked at the list, you've gone out and done your day, and now these 5 names are jumping out at you. And here's the thing, if you grab your highlighter and 5 names don't jump out at you, you have to dig. You have to look, and you just have to sort of pick people, because you might not get 5 that jump out. They're the freebies, the low-hanging fruit. And then you have to dig, because you can't be like, oh, only 3 names jumped out at me, I'm only doing 3 today. You got to do at least 5, and 5 is the very minimum. So now what are you going to say to them? So the first thing is, before you pick up the phone and start calling, is you have to get your head on straight. The reason for you making this call is one reason and one reason only, and that is to make a human connection. If you get your head on straight and you plan to pick up the phone to ask Andy how he is and remind him of how much fun you had the night the margaritas came out your nose, even though it ruined your new shirt, you will get your head on straight, and you will not sound salesy or cheesy, and you will not resist picking up the phone and calling him. So the first thing you have to do before you pick up is get your head on straight and tell yourself, I'm calling to make a human connection. Then you have to remember to be genuine. And here's what I mean about being genuine. Not all people are your people, and that's okay. You can't be everything to every person. One of the things I say when I teach new agents is you can wear anything, there's no dress code. And what I mean by that is you can be you. You don't have to dress to impress. There's a tattooed realtor that has tattooed, you guys have probably seen him on social media, his tattoos like all the way up his face. He's got clientele. 10 years ago, that wouldn't have been a thing. We all had to wear suits. Now you can be yourself because real estate is a people business. It is relationship based. And so you have to be who you are, but the best version of yourself when you pick up the phone, and not try and be fake and be all things to all people, because they're going to see right through you. And if you don't make a human connection with somebody, move on to the next one, because you don't want to work with people that aren't the right fit for you. That leads to deals falling apart and lawsuits, trust me. The next one is to be interested, not interesting. And this is a really great tip across the board, not just for this. When you're talking to somebody, you can be like, oh my God, and this is really important in social media posts too. If you're like, oh my God, I'm so great, look how many houses I sold, blah, 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 and you're telling about yourself the whole time, instead of asking about people or being interested in them, nobody wants to hear it. You already know everything about yourself. You talk to yourself in your head all day long if you're anything like me. Repeat the same stuff over and over again. Do not waste this opportunity to make a human connection with somebody after you've gone through all the work and actually picked up the phone, and then start blathering on and on about yourself and all the stuff you already know. Take this time to ask questions and learn something about this other human on the other end of the phone. You pick up a phone, nobody calls anybody anymore. So the fact that they even picked up the phone and listened, you're basically just coming in and barging in on their day, and they picked up the phone to talk to you. Make it worth their while, make it worth your while. And remember to be interested, not interesting. So now, what are you going to say to them? Now that you've done the mindset work and gotten your head on straight, it's simple. And these are not scripts, these are just ideas. And you can literally make your own list and keep it with you so that you have something on the top of your mind of purpose to call. So it could be something as simple as, I was just thinking of you. How are you doing during shutdown? I need to update these slides because shutdown's almost over. So just checking in to see how the kids are doing with no camp. How are you holding up? I miss you and my friends. You want to do a virtual happy hour? Yeah, Zach, if you're here, we got to update these slides. Zach works in my office. These are shutdown slides. How about this? I know you work with that animal rescue. I want to help. What do they need? Volunteering is one of the best ways to pick up clients, because when you volunteer, you are in the trenches with someone and you're building the know, like, and trust factor. And that's why people want to do business with you. It's because they know you, like you, and trust you. So volunteering is one of my absolute favorite ways in the world to build my business. And you're fixing something that hurts your heart in the same time. So calling up and asking someone how you can help them volunteer is great. Take social media from online to offline. I saw that post of I can't read what it is, the cake you baked, and it was amazing. Will you make a video of it? Will you send me the recipe? Was it worth the calories? People comment on each other's Facebook posts or Instagram posts all the time. But if you take it offline and you call the person or even text them and start asking them about that, you're going to stand out in their mind and actually be able to start a conversation. I went by your house yesterday and your tulips look gorgeous. I didn't know you had a green thumb. This one is super awesome because the next question they're going to ask you is, why were you by my house yesterday? Oh, because I was showing your neighbor's house. There's your segue into real estate right there without even having to use the special sauce. Do you want to meet for a walk? Do you want to meet for a drink? Do you want to meet for coffee? You were in my dream last night. Okay, now this one you got to be really careful with, because the first thing is, the instant you say this, they're going to think it's creepy. If it was a creepy dream or a naughty dream, don't call the person and tell them. But if it was just a regular old dream and it really did happen, then you can call the person and tell them. And it has to be somebody that you're comfortable with enough to tell them this. But if you really do have a dream about somebody and it's not creepy or gross, call them and tell them, because they love to hear that. And they're like, oh my God, what was it about? So whenever I have this conversation with somebody, I always start off by saying, listen, it wasn't creepy, but I had a dream about you last night. And then we take the conversation from there. The next one, I missed you. Do you want to meet for coffee or drinks? So simple. And here's the thing, you have to be willing to actually put on some pants and go meet people for coffee or a drink or a walk or whatever. And it's good to get out of the house. And you don't have to have an ulterior motive in mind. It doesn't have to be someone, like all the lead generation stuff out there tells you, you have to go after the people who are ready to buy right now, who are ready to sell right now. And I call BS. I call BS because this is a relationship business. And the beautiful thing about what we do is that everyone is a potential client. Everyone needs a place to live. And so by you just increasing your frequency and getting out of the house and putting on pants and talking to humans, it's going to make stuff happen. So you don't have to worry if the person is ready to buy a house or not. Ask them out for coffee and go talk. You never know what's going to happen. Next one, I'm showing a house around the corner from you. Do you want to see it? Do you want to grab lunch after? This one is so super great because you're offering to let somebody get a sneak peek into their neighbor's house. You're offering them something and reminding them or informing them that you're in real estate all at the same time without being salesy or cheesy. You're not asking them for anything. You're offering them something. And this one people love. I do this all the time, especially if I sold them their house and I see something pop up on the market near their property. I'll set up an appointment to go preview it and I'll email them or call them and I'll be like, hey, you want to come with me? And a lot of times they do. I love your hair, your gardener outfit. Where did you go to get it? If the compliment is genuine, give it, because people love to hear compliments and you'll learn how to do your hair better. I just read this book and thought of you. You must read it. I do this all the time. I'm reading a book and a passage makes me think of someone. I'll send them the link through an independent bookseller instead of Amazon to buy the book, or a snapshot of the actual passage that I was reading, and tell them about it because it made me think of them. And that starts a conversation. I just walked past that store you love and they're having a sale. Okay, so a bunch of simple conversation starters, and they're super easy. Like, it didn't take me a long time to come up with those slides, and you probably knew all of those already, but I just want to show you how freaking easy it is, and you have absolutely no excuse for calling people. So now that we have who we're going to call, we have what we're going to say, now you're in a conversation, and hopefully we all know how to converse with other humans, but how do we turn that conversation from your tulips are gorgeous into, hey, let's go do a real estate transaction? And here's where we go. Now, the first thing is we have to talk about little mindset issues again. And the first one is get your head in the game. And this means fake it till you make it. Here's one of the catch-22s. If you're in business and you're new, or you're in a rut, you might not have any real estate stuff to talk about because you've got no clients, you have nothing going on, and that's okay. We've all been there. One of the simplest ways to get real estate on top of mind so you have something to talk about is to go preview properties. It's that simple, it's free, and you can do it every single day. Set a hot sheet on your MLS and in an area that you live or you want to work or you do work, and go set up property previews every single day for the vacant properties. Now, just be specially cognizant of COVID and of listing agents' time and sellers' time. So when I tell you to do this, I don't want you to do this for occupied properties because you're putting people out and you don't really have a buyer. Even though you're previewing, you're telling them you're previewing, so there's nothing wrong, but you're not having an end buyer in mind. So I don't like to do this when the listing agent has to meet me or when it's occupied, because then I'm putting the sellers out. If I'm not sure, I will literally call the listing agent and say, this is what I want to do. Is it a problem? And it's really important to be considerate of their time and space. But if it's clearly vacant, you can simply make an appointment through Showing Time that says agent preview and go out and preview properties. I wrote a whole blog post on this, janisbenstock.com/blog, about faking it till you make it, about all the benefits of previewing properties, and I could go on all day about it. So make sure you do that. The next thing is, when you are talking to people, when you're getting ready to convert this contact into a client, you need to make people feel comfortable. Because remember, people do business with people they know, like, and trust. We need people to feel comfortable with us. One of the simplest ways to make someone comfortable with you in a phone call is to mirror their language. And when I talk about that, I'm talking about the rate of speech. I'm a fast talker. I slow it down a little bit for here, but I'm a fast talker. And for those of you who are slow talkers, I might be annoying you right now, and I'm sorry, but this is the way I talk. For those of you who are fast talkers, when you talk to a slow talker, it's like, oh, it grates on my nerves. Now, if you're watching a presentation and I'm presenting, there's nothing I can do because everybody's talking at a different rate of speech and I can't hear you. But if you and I are having a conversation, even though I'm a fast talker and I hear you're a slow talker, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to automatically slow my rate of speech down to closer match yours. And you know what that's going to do? That's going to make you feel comfortable. And you might not even realize it, but it works every single time. So pay attention to how people speak. And if you're nervous about practicing this right away, the first thing to do is get your watcher out. And your watcher is when you, in the moment, like, you know, when you're driving down the highway and you get down the shore and you're like, how the hell did I get here? You're kind of spaced out the whole time. That's how we often go through lots of our day and lots of our life. But when you're in the moment, it means you're observing what you're doing. And if you're going through your life and you're going through these conversations with people on auto drive, you're not observing. So one of the ways to practice is to get your watcher out. And I imagine my watcher is me standing outside here watching me do this presentation right now, as if this were a movie. And if you practice that skill during times when you're calm and you're not under pressure, you will be able to build that muscle and get your watcher out when you're doing other things under pressure, like having a conversation with someone and trying to mirror their language. So the next few conversations that you have with people, I want you to practice just imagining that you're watching this conversation from up here as if it were a movie, and see if you can notice the different rates of speech of you and the other person talking. Once you do this over and over and become comfortable with it, then you're ready to dip your toe into the pool of trying to mirror somebody's language. So take it step by step. And once you are able to develop this skill, you will notice how quickly it puts the other person at ease. And that's what we want to do, is we want to make them feel comfortable. The third step is what I call creating curiosity. And so if you're going to talk to somebody about going out for coffee or their daughter's dance recital, and then you want to switch the conversation into real estate, you need to get their permission. You cannot just call someone and start. This is why I hate scripts. That's one of the 1,000 reasons why I hate scripts. You can't just call people and say, oh yeah, do you need to buy or sell a house? They're going to be like, who, like, you're assaulting me. I'm in the middle of like making dinner and you're asking me this. So we need to ask permission, and this is how we do it. We've gotten our head in the game, we've made them feel comfortable, and now we're going to ask for permission. So you start off the conversation by, I've been thinking about you, how are you? And they say, oh, I'm doing great, how are you? And then you say, oh, I'm good, thanks. And then what happens? The conversation is dead. There's nowhere to go. How are you? I'm good. How are you? Good. Okay, now what? Why did you call? Well, conversely, you say, I've been thinking of you, how are you doing? And then they say, I'm doing great, how are you? And you say, oh my God, I'm so busy, I've been selling all these houses, blah, blah, blah. And you know what they're like? They're like, shut the fuck up, because you just assaulted them with all of this real estate stuff and didn't ask permission. So where is the middle ground? Where is the secret sauce, the special magic? They say, you say, hi, how are you? And they say, I'm doing great, how are you? And you say, great, I'm tired though, the market is insane. Now you've put out a little crumb for them. They can look at this crumb and they can pick it up and nibble and say, really, what do you mean the market's insane? And then they've given you permission to start talking about real estate. Or they could ignore that little crumb you put out and they could just go on to talk about their bunion surgery coming up next week. When that happens, then you have to follow their lead and start talking about their bunion surgery. But if they say to you, what does it mean the market's insane? Then you can start moving along the conversation. And every time you talk about real estate, you just put out another little crumb. And if they don't pick up and they don't nibble that crumb, you follow their lead and move on to the conversation topic that they brought up. Another one that you can use to create curiosity is they say, I'm great, how are you? Great, but I'm actually missing quarantine a little. Same thing. Why are you missing quarantine? Oh, because I'm out showing houses all day and I kind of miss sitting around in my underwear and binging Netflix. The real estate market's insane. And now you've started a conversation into real estate. So, and I want to tell you a little story about one of my agents. Really, really nice woman, but we were going out on, I take my new agents on tours and we'll go in a group of like 4 people and we'll go preview a bunch of properties. And we were walking in and I go preview, like when I take them, I show the first one how to work the lockbox, how to do all this stuff and walk them around and show them in person as if we were with a buyer. And then each one of them gets a turn and they practice and they show one of the other properties. So we got into the 3rd property. I did mine, he did hers, and she goes to do hers. And we walk into a condo building and there are people in the lobby and there's a person at the desk and all this, like people at the mailboxes, blah, blah, blah. And this one agent, it was her turn to show. And I guess she was feeling kind of emboldened because it was hers. And she just walked around and started like assaulting people with her business card. She's like, oh, hi, I'm Sue. I sell real estate here. And people were like, what? And there was another agent in there that I know that we all know. And they were like, what is this? And I had to pull her aside and explain to her, like, you can't just walk up to people and like beat them over the head with who you are. This is the way to do it. Now, if you naturally get into a conversation with somebody, whether it's on the phone because you call them or in your Uber or in the lobby of the building that you're showing or out at brunch, there's so many different ways and places that you can use this, then you create curiosity. You're asking permission and then you're following their lead and ending the conversation by talking about real estate. Now, I don't know if I have this slide here. Okay, let's keep going. So you could also, a couple of other ways that you can create curiosity. I've been exploring the name of a neighborhood or town. So you could say Point Breeze, Northern Liberties. I never spent so much time there, but it's a really cool place. And then they say, well, why are you in Point Breeze? For some reason, I have 5 buyers that want to work there. I just listed 3 properties in there. All of a sudden, I don't understand why. You could also start off with saying, I've actually been running around nonstop today. I feel like I've been on a road trip to nowhere. And you can take these slides and you can use them, but just don't make them sound scripty. Make them, practice them so that they have your own flavor. Now, once you have the conversation with somebody and the conversation is ending, you have to make sure that you book a follow-up call. That's really, really important. So if they expressed a real estate need, if they nibbled and they said, oh yeah, Point Breeze, I live in Point Breeze, I'd love to know what my house is worth, or I've always wanted to move there, I'm curious about it. Then you book the follow-up call by getting their email address if you don't already have it, and getting their permission and saying, listen, I can set you up on auto matches. I know you're not really looking to move, but it's fun to know what the houses are worth. It takes me 5 seconds and I'll set you up on auto matches and you can get emails every day. And then if you ever see something you like, just call me. You've gotten their permission, you've set the follow-up. If it's they want you to come look at their house or do a CMA, book that, follow up and take care of that. If they did not express a real estate need and they were talking about their bunion surgery, for example, then you're going to make a note in your CRM or your phone or your calendar to call them. Now, you're not going to tell them, all right, I'll call you next Thursday to see how your bunion surgery went. That would be weird. But you're going to make a note to yourself, call Sue and ask her how her bunion surgery was, and then you're going to call her and ask her how it was. Now, ending the call can be a challenge. When you end a call with somebody, we all know you find that pause, the natural break, and you insert your ending. But sometimes we call people and there is no natural pause. They don't stop and there's no way for us to end the call. So what we do in that case is we go opposite the rate of speech. I told you in the beginning to make somebody feel comfortable, we're going to mirror their language. Well, now to make them feel a little uncomfortable and not in a manipulative or mean way, just a way that's going to make them feel a little bit uncomfortable so that they sort of take a pause because they feel uncomfortable. And that's where you're going to insert your ending in. And your ending is something as simple as, it was so great talking to you. I'll let you get back to your day, or thanks for spending a few minutes to chat with me, or goodbye. Whatever you want to say is your ending. But I know a lot of agents who they get over the hurdle of choosing the 5 people, knowing what to say, but then they're afraid to make the call because they're afraid that they're not going to be able to end the conversation. So if you just flip the switch on making them comfortable into making them feel uncomfortable, it usually will generate that mini little pause so you can slide your ending in. And just to summarize what we talked about today, and then I'll be here for questions, is make sure that whatever you do, this is the first thing, it's not even a slide. The first thing is whatever you do, whether it's reaching out and touching 5 people or cold calling or door knocking or posting on social media, whatever it is that you do, make sure you do it every single day. You cannot skip a day. And you have to remember that you might not get results right away. You probably won't get results right away. But when I hear people say, oh, it takes too long, the time is going to pass whether you do it or not. The time will pass whether you do it or not. And think about your schedule as rocks. That little story about the college professor, I've seen it online a million times, has a pile of rocks, a pile of stones, and a thing of sand, and says, put them all in the jar. And everyone tries and they can't fit them in. And the secret is you put the rocks in first, and then you put the pebbles in, they fill the crevices, and then you put the sand in, and the sand fills in all the spaces. Touching people, not in a creepy way, social media posting, cold calling, door knocking, whatever it is that you do to generate leads are the rocks. You have to anchor your schedule with those rocks. And then the rest of the stuff that you have to do, the emails, the laundry, the text, the taking the kids to school, whatever it is, that fills in the gaps. Now, obviously, you put your rocks in around having the times that you have to be there for your kids. But the point is they have to go on your schedule and they have to be unequivocal anchors. They're not negotiable, because you remember, if you don't do this, you don't eat. It's that important. So we talked about how to choose the 5 people, what to say to them so you'll actually look forward to making the calls, and how to create curiosity so that you can introduce real estate into the conversation. And here's the thing, if you try and create curiosity and they don't nibble, you book that follow-up call to ask her about her bunion surgery, you get to try again. You get to throw another crumb out there and see if she bites that day. She maybe was too busy worried about her foot to be able to wonder why you're talking about Point Breeze. But you try it again, and you try it every single time and follow her lead, and you keep on doing this. And someday she might nibble, or she might hear you and then end up referring you to somebody without even you having to ask for referrals. And here's one of my other things. I don't ever ask for referrals. And if you want to do it, you do you. But in my mind, I never ask people for business. Never, ever, ever. Instead, I create curiosity and I offer them something. I look at sales as service, sales as problem solving. And so if somebody has a problem and I can reach into my tool belt and pull out some tools that helps them with their problem, and hopefully it's in a real estate way, that's how I generate my business. For me to call somebody and as she's talking about her bunion surgery and say, oh, if you have any friends that need to buy or sell, I'm assaulting her and I'm being salesy. So instead I offer value and I get lots of referrals. I don't advertise. I've never advertised. All my business is by doing this organically and people referring people to me naturally, because I stay in touch with them. I create curiosity. I remind them over and over again that I'm in the business. And that's how it works. So here's how to find me if you need me, or you can just talk to me and I'll talk to you, but that's all my information. And that's it. That's all I got. So I'll leave that up for a second so you guys can grab it if you need it, and then I'll stop sharing and see if anybody has any questions. Oh, there's stuff in the chat. I don't know if that's for me. Nope, 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 that's not okay. Okay, and somebody wanted to know about the recording, so Matt, that's you. And if anybody else has questions, I'm here. You're welcome.
So GPAR has a YouTube channel, and we put all our videos up into that. So if you guys can give me a second, I can drop the link to that. We suggest that you go ahead and subscribe, because then as we post the videos, you can see them as they go up there. And we have a full library of pretty much everything we've done over the last 15 or so months. So there's some really good ones in there. Some of them, quite honestly, are a little bit timely. So if you go ahead and you look at the things as relates to the current economic conditions and things like that. So it's not a good idea to probably watch the August 2020 version of the economic update because it's a little bit stale and things have, obviously changed quite a bit since then. But there's a really good one we just put in from, I can't remember her name, Dr. Jessica Louts from NAR. She did one that was very timely, kind of get a good idea of like what's going on with consumers, where their heads are at, what kinds of trends she is seeing. She's a researcher. She looks at all sorts of data and whatnot, and that's what guides her presentation. So anyway, check out that link I just dropped into the chat. Any questions for Janis before we wrap up?
I'd go call your people. Hang up and go call your people.
So
All
again,
right.
we encourage you to join us on Friday with Jack Barry, Protecting Your Online Reputation. Code of Ethics training next week. If you haven't taken care of your Code of Ethics requirement yet, we're going to do a session next Wednesday, the 23rd. And with that, Janis, thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate it. And everybody have a great day. Take care.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.